Good afternoon. My name is Alex Thibault. I'm Vice President and General Manager of Vulog for North America. For those of you who don't know Vulog, we are the world's leading SaaS-based platform to power new mobility services. We power some services all around the world on 5 continents, including Kia Motors service called Thibault in Madrid, Spain, which has about 500 electric vehicles. So that was a great segue into that last comment. It was a great segue into our presentation because all the services that we're launching in Europe nowadays are fully electric services for new mobility. Other great services that you might have heard of this year, Washington, D.C. based service called Free to Move by PSA Peugeot, who is launching new mobility in North America. And we also power AAA and CAA, which is a Canadian version of AAA service, Evo, in Vancouver, Canada, which has 1,300. It's a massive footprint service. So I can talk to you about this for a long time, but a quick sizzle reel is probably better. That bass was pretty powerful. Just so you know what we're talking about when we're talking about a mobility platform, our end-to-end service offering covers 4 main things. The first is a telematic box that is inside the vehicle that enables the connectivity to the vehicle. There's a number of other things that we do as accessories to provide a really, really good user experience, such as a little speaker that our operators can put in the car. And what that enables them to do is to prompt users with certain messages. Like, for example, there's a couple of services that run where you can say, the user can hear when there's under 5% charge or 5% gas in the vehicle, they can be prompted that in order to terminate their trip and end the trip and position the car and park it, they need to go and refuel that vehicle. Because under 5%, danger that vehicle is going to be stranded there for a little while. So this is one component. It's the hardware that's put in the car. But you also have a mobility platform that's API enabled, and really all the heavy lifting with regards to matching the trips and the users with the vehicles happens at the mobility platform level. Now, this is all API driven, and we've got 2 branches that stem from it. We've got all of our end users app on one side, so the mobile app that's white label, and the website as well. And we also have all the operator tools on the other side, which is a back office, a machine learning platform that enables them to, our operators to understand where the demand is coming from, reposition the vehicles, et cetera, et cetera. We have apps, we have back offices, all kinds of stuff. Feel free to come chat with me about that afterwards. But what I really wanted to chat with you about today is what we're seeing in terms of evolution in the marketplace right now. And the 7 ingredients, you'll understand that this picture, but we wanted to show you essentially that we are here. The new mobility world is moving at an incredibly rapid pace. And if you look at the customers that we've onboarded only in 2018, we've onboarded 12 large projects around the world in 2018, it really dwarfs the numbers that we had to date from 2013 to 2017, and Vulog was actually founded in 2006. So it has evolved quite a bit. But the second thing that's really interesting is if you look at the types of operators that are coming into this space. They're OEMs, they're oil and gas providers, so petrol stations, they're transportation companies, so that it's Sumitomo Group. They do so many things that the only way that we can categorize them is to say that they're a transportation company. We've got distributors and dealer groups, we've got insurance companies, we also have startups within our core clientele, and really a range of car rental companies as well. But 2018, you see, was really a year where everything changed, and we sort of hit that inflection point, and what we're going to see in 2019, at least in the first 3 to 6 months, is even more large projects that are coming offline, and we're going to have some pretty exciting announcements. But the reason why I wanted to talk to you about this is, when we address the 7 key ingredients, It's very important for you, either as a potential operator of mobility, current operator of mobility, or potential partner in the mobility space, to understand what makes a slam dunk, what makes an actually successful service. Because you will be taking on a risk, obviously, to launch something, but you'll also be taking on a risk when you do partnerships in the form of resources, money, whatever you're going to be investing to partner with a mobility project. So we felt that it was very relevant for us to pull the best practices that we've seen out there. So, number one, start with vehicle sharing, grow with multi-services. Start with vehicle sharing, and that's opposed to, for example, doing a ride-hail service where you're a platform and you don't own the fleet. So starting with vehicle sharing where you own the fleet is paramount to you getting the learnings as an operator or whatever operator you're partnering with for them to learn things that are going to serve them in the future of mobility. Whether it be fleet management, whether it be talking to specific users based on different use cases that you want to trigger in them, these are all things that you're going to learn a lot better if you've got your own vehicles that are being used. Because you can put sensors in the cars, you have a lot more data that's being reported to the cars as opposed to just using an app that would be on a cell phone that would be reporting all of this data. Growing with multi-service is also important, but if you want to look here at the screen, we have the US Department of Energy that reports the trips that are taken by the motorists across the US. And 60% of those trips are under 6 miles, and 40% of those trips are above 6 miles. So when we talk about multi-service, when we talk about the choice of the vehicle to use, this data is incredibly useful because it enables us to realize that if you want to test different use cases, and many use cases across different ranges, you're going to need to have cars in your platform. So those vehicles are going to be, and by the way, our platform works, I'm not trying to sell you on one or the other, our platform works with scooters as well as cars. But cars will enable you to test a number of different use cases as you move forward with your mobility service. So it is paramount that at some point down the road, you put in cars. So we'll give the example of Poppy, which is one of our customers based in Antwerp, Belgium. And the customer is a VW's distributor in Belgium called D'Ieteren. They're a publicly listed company. And they started out by launching over 300 cars, but they've now improved it by adding scooters in order to cater to different use cases with their fleets. And they now have close to 400 vehicles that are cars as well as mopeds. But the other type of multi-service that you might want to do would be a reservation-based service that layers in on top of an instant access service. So an instant access service is, I need this car now, I'm looking on my app, is there a vehicle close to me, I'm going to go to it. Whereas a reservation-based service is, I'm going to need a car in 2 weeks, can I book that vehicle to be there, and am I able to use that same service to do both things? These are things that you might want to essentially think about as you're devising your service, because being able to cater to more use cases and have your users depend on your service for different use cases is paramount to the success of tomorrow's mobility. Well, today's mobility, really. Number 2 is partner with cities. I think we got a great example of that in 2018 with everything that happened with the scooter wars. Literally private companies that own fleets, in this case scooters, going at war with public administrations over the rights to park in different cities around the US and around the world. But partnering with cities can mean 3 things. It can mean getting access to parking, getting access to charging infrastructure, and giving them access to data, or potentially having access to data that they already have. So I'll give you a couple examples of things that are good in the parking situation. We have a customer in Copenhagen. They have 450 electric vehicles, and whenever they park the cars somewhere in Copenhagen, they're billed in real time for the time that the vehicles are at the meters. So the city has integrated with us in order for us to track what's happening at the meters, and that is being charged in real time. So if the car is parked for 42 minutes, they're charged for 42 minutes of parking lot, depending of where they're located. So facilitating these things with the cities and the local administration is very important. Charging infrastructure. We have a project in a city in Europe where, obviously not in the US as much, but that is coming. But we have a partner in Europe that what they set up is you need to be plugging the vehicle in order to terminate your trip. So you land that car on the spot, you plug that car in, and you cannot terminate the trip unless you've plugged that vehicle in order to make sure that the cars are always fully charged and that you're working on a full charge when you start that rental. So that is extremely useful. The data, obviously, you're going to need to give them some data. And it's becoming more and more prevalent. And within 3 years, more than likely, every city in the U.S. where there's going to have where there are going to be operations are going to require some kind of data sharing with regards to the service. Whether it be to make sure that there's no clustering, like 5 cars that are at the same time at the same place, where all the residents of the street are very angry. These are the things that they're going to want to see in order for your scheme or your partner's scheme to operate locally. Press what I shouldn't have pressed. Sorry about that. Launch with a large-scale fleet. If you look at the fleets that we were launching in 2015 and compare those fleets with the fleets that we launched in 2018, there's a 35% increase in the number of vehicles that have launched. Now, the reason behind that is pretty simple. It's all about the whole dependability thing. If a user opens up an app and there's never a vehicle available, they're never going to use your service. If a user opens up your app and there's always a car somewhere close by, they need to walk under 1,000 feet at all times to access a vehicle, they're going to rely on the fact that your car is going to be there. Same thing as when you want to order an Uber at 4 a.m. to try to get to the airport and it's surge pricing, right? You still order it because you're depending on Uber or Lyft depending on the situation. But it's very similar to this. You want your users to depend on your service, and you want them to feel like they're going to have a car whenever they need one. So it is extremely useful to launch with a larger fleet. And the other thing that's interesting about that is that every single customer around the world that has added vehicles to their fleet have seen the number of trips per day per car go up. So for the same user base, more vehicles, it's more trips per car per day, which is a little counterintuitive, but when you really think about it, the user experience is so much better when you have a lot of cars that it really is kind of a no-brainer that when you have more cars, there's going to be more trips per car per day. So size does matter in these things. Offering a seamless user experience, and I might be long-winded a little bit, so I'm going to go relatively quickly here. But what you want to do as an operator, or what you want your partner operator to do, is you want them to offer the right car at the right time in the right place. In order to do that, it's about selecting the right vehicle for the use cases that you're chasing as an operator. It's having a seamless mobile application. If you apply for a service and you need a car within a week and it takes 3 weeks for your application to be processed, no one's going to win, right? The operator's going to lose out on revenue, and you as a user, you're going to be down on your luck. So there's nothing good about that if you have a bad user experience, and you're never going to get back those users, or it's going to cost you 3 to 4 more times to recuperate that user down the road. Fleet density is akin to what I was talking about a little bit earlier. So it's really making sure that you have the right vehicle at the right time, at the right place. Leveraging data, number 5. And that is an extremely important one, obviously. And what we do at Vulog is we are able to help out our customers. Because we've launched so many of these one-way projects in so many cities around the world, we were counting them earlier, and we're nearing 25 at this point, we're able to give us a good idea of the best practices that you need to replicate in order to launch X, Y, and Z service in X, Y, and Z city. However, we don't necessarily have this exact example of this vehicle in this city with this kind of urban sprawl, with this type of density. So leveraging the data after a couple of months is extremely important in order for you to do 3 things. We're always trying to reduce your overhead costs, increase your revenues, and get you to profitability as aggressively as possible, obviously being a result of the two previous things. But demand management and knowing where the hot pockets in your cities are at different times of the day is extremely important for you to have a high profitability and for you to increase the utilization of your cars. Fleet optimization, whether it be by having fleet agents that reposition cars throughout a day, extremely efficient way to do it, but you can start having those actions performed by users. By clustering users, for example, that let's say that X number of users live in this area, you've got 5 cars here, and you send a promo code to all those users at the same time, 75% off the car for the next hour to try to get these cars to move around. Reduce the price dynamically of those vehicles in order for, where it'd be $15 an hour, it goes down to $4 an hour so that those cars move around and get taken somewhere else. So this is how you're leveraging the data in day-to-day mobility. The 6th aspect, and one of my favorite ones, is build a community around your brand. With everything that's happening with Waymo, and there's been a bit of press about this, this becomes more and more important in today's world. A lot of companies feel like, oh, we'll just come in and we're going to throw billions of dollars at this problem and it's going to work. But at the end of the day, there's humans behind it, right? Your consumers and the community are human beings. Another thing that's interesting is that it enables you as an operator to continuously have a conversation with your customers, even if your customer is disengaged. If your customer is no longer using your services, hasn't used the service in a year, and what you're doing is sending them an invite to come see a free movie in the park, they're not going to be as antagonized as if you're trying to get them to use their service no matter what. So having that sense of community of users is tremendously important in order for you to thrive as a mobility operator. Now, preparing for the future. This can sound a little bit generic, but the 6 previous points that we've talked about sort of add up to this. We believe that the winner in tomorrow's mobility are the companies that will have done the 6 things. You'll have done the initial, which was launch car sharing first or vehicle sharing first, and add on more services catered to more use cases. You're going to have, forgetting one right here, number 2. No matter. Oh yeah, okay, so leveraging the data, working with cities. You want to launch something at scale as aggressively as possible. You want to have the best user experience, and you want to have the best community as possible. You package those things together and you position yourself in order to be a top-line operator in tomorrow's mobility. And Vulog, we kind of take it at the same angle on it. We've been positioning ourselves for over a decade to be the top provider for one-way mobility in the autonomous future. Our first goal was to become the #1 platform in the world for one-way mobility, and we've successfully done that, and we're very happy about it. We've reworked our platform in order for our platform to be fully open, which we announced a couple of years ago. And our platform is fully open in order to connect to external systems. So we're able to do that successfully. And we've been working for a number of years on aligning things in order for things to be ready for autonomous mobility. I wanted to give you a quick glimpse with a short video of what that amounts to. Feel free to take a look. Doesn't hurt to have an office in Nice, France to get some pretty cool stills like that. We'll be at CES all week. Feel free to stop by. We are at booth 3737, and we've got 4 other people from Vulog here in the room, and they're going to be rocking these awesome Vulog polos. If you want to talk to them during the break, we'll be around. But feel free to drop by our booth at CES. You don't need to make an appointment. Just drop by and come and see us. We'll be glad to have you. Thank you.